Great. So hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Applied Medical Sciences undergraduate open event. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Chun. I'm a current Applied Medical Sciences student here at UCL, and I'll be your chair this afternoon. So we're hoping that this session will address any course-specific questions that you guys might have, and also help you to gain an insight into what it's like to study on this Applied Medical Sciences undergraduate program. So this afternoon, our speaker, Jenny Roan, will introduce to you the exciting field of applied medical sciences, and we'll follow this with an overview of the structure of the program here at UCL. And there'll also be a Q&A session afterwards, and also a lot of interactive opportunities for you guys all to join in throughout today's session. As I mentioned before, the session is being recorded, so afterwards, if you want to revisit anything, that will be made available. And we're also here to respond to your questions throughout. So if you think of anything, just please share them in the Q&A function on Zoom, and we'll answer them at the end. Now, to introduce our speaker, we have Jenny Roan with us today, and Professor Roan's a cell biologist here at UCL and also an author. She's a key member of the teaching staff for our Applied Medical Sciences program and is a professorial research fellow with the Division of Medicine at the Royal Free Hospital. And at the Royal Free, Professor Roan runs a research lab, which is trying to understand how microbes interact with bladder cells and why treatment frequently fails in UTIs, which is one of the most common infectious diseases in the world and yet is relatively understudied.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks, Sean, for the lovely introduction. I am here to tell you a little bit about applied medical sciences, of course. So our motto is fusing science with medicine, and it's a 3-year BSc in the Division of Medicine. So the Division of Medicine is a department. It's very large. It's the largest department in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. It's very research intensive. So we have a mix of internationally renowned clinician scientists, and non-clinical scientists all working together. We have a lot of close contact with various really world-leading London hospitals, and a lot of our faculty have joint appointments between the hospital and the university. So it's a really medical research intensive place. We excel at interdisciplinary research, teaching, and clinical practice with really international impact. And if I know it's really hard to keep score on these things, but looking at the Research Excellence Framework of 2021, clinical medicine came in first at UCL. So UCL came in first in clinical medicine for impact and environment. We came in second for overall research power, and first for research power in medicine. So we are well known in the UK for being really great at this kind of thing. So just as 3 really brief examples of some research impact that UCL's had recently. I'll talk a little bit more about the Ventura CPAP breathing aid in the next slide. We've also been driving improvements in Crohn's disease. So lots of great clinical research has led to changes in diagnostics and monitoring. And we've had a real breakthrough for rare untreatable heart diseases caused by amyloidosis. So that was quite recent as well. The CPAP story is really interesting. You may have seen this in the news. This is mid-March. Cast your mind back to 2020, if you could bear to, in March, just when the pandemic was hitting. And the UK had run out of mechanical ventilators. It was really awful. So UCL scientists got together with UCLH, which is the hospital, and Formula One Mercedes, and decided to come up with a plan to fix this problem. They decided to re-engineer an out-of-patent device, make it more oxygen efficient, test it on people, achieve regulatory approval, and then manufacture at scale all as soon as possible. And they managed to produce 10,000 UCL Ventura devices within a month. And then they had distributed the plans all over the world at zero cost, so anybody could make it. So this is a great example of how UCL is really good at research and getting things and changing things clinically, but also having this sort of global impact for the good of society. I love this example, and it's really cool. Okay, and also UCL has been rewarded, the people who work at UCL have been rewarded for 29 Nobel Prizes. 27 of these were based in science, and 16 of these were in physiology or medicine. So they're in the area in which this course sits. So that's a pretty good record for Nobel Prizes. Yeah. So I want to talk now about the course structure. So this is what you're looking at here. It's a little bit complicated, but if you look at the bottom, we have year 1. And this is applied medical sciences, this column on the left. But you'll notice that there are there are 5 other columns in this graph. And the reason why is because we share our first year, which we call the integrated medical sciences year, with 5 other courses, sister courses in the faculty. You all sit together in mostly the same lectures, learning pretty similar things, a foundation for everything you need to know. Then at year 2, the courses diverge. AMS, or Applied Medical Sciences, goes on as a broad choice, and you go on to do year 2 and year 3, whereas all the other courses go off and do their more specific things. The reason why I'm telling you this, though, is it's a really great feature. If you're sitting in this lecture, you're an AMS student, and you're listening to the cancer lectures and thinking, I really like cancer, you can actually switch to cancer biomedicine by the end of year 1 with no fuss. It's automatic. You can just make a few emails and you're there. So you can come in AMS and then end up somewhere else. Equally, people who start these other courses sometimes end up back in AMS. So it's a really, really great flexibility. Although you're signing up to 1 course, you actually have the chance to do 6, depending on how you feel. So we love this aspect, and we think it's really important to stress. So year 1 is all foundational stuff, really basic. It's like a whistle-stop tour of the human body. It's kind of like the MBBS medical degree compressed into 1 intense year. And afterwards, things start to diverge. And by year 3, you're doing a really exciting research project and a few other modules. So that's basically the course structure. So the ethos of the course, this fusing science with medicine. We want to develop science graduates with a very strong medical background. So this is not the same as biomedical sciences, which is another excellent course at UCL. This is we are really focused on medicine, but the science behind it. So you can have a strategic advantage if you apply for any job that requires clinical insights. And you can really, in addition to switching between courses, like I mentioned, you can also just tailor your AMS degree to whatever you want to do. And really, you can follow your interests, and we can find module selections that suit you. And we have a module pathway system where if you're interested in doing one thing, we can guide you on which modules are best for that journey. And really, the sky's the limit. I think you can do anything science and medical related with this degree. It's a really flexible, broad degree. And one of the nice things about AMS is a lot of people, I noticed on the poll that 50% of you want to go to medical school. Many of our students actually wanted to go into medical school, and they didn't get in, to be frank. So they joined us. And 2 things happened. Some of those students, some of the students who really wanted to do medicine ended up doing graduate medicine or so after they got their AMS degree, they went on to do medical school. We've got a great record of getting people into medical school. Some of those people who wanted to be doctors actually changed their minds. During AMS, they were exposed to all sorts of cool science, and they decided, actually, I don't want to be a doctor, I want to be a scientist. So we think that AMS is a really great place to go first of all, if you wanted to get into medicine and didn't, it's a good place, because we can probably get you prepared for that step for later. Or if you're just not sure what you want to do. I think 1/3 of you said you weren't sure what you wanted to do. AMS is great because it's sort of general and you can find your way. So it's an excellent place to sort of figure out where you want to be after graduation. We have really innovative teaching. Now, way before the pandemic, we were doing some flipped learning. Now it's kind of the mainstay of higher education, but we don't teach traditionally in that we don't just give lectures and ask you to do homework. We usually give the lecture first, and then you go away and think about it, and then you come back to a face-to-face or more interactive experience. Traditionally, you're told what you need to know, you memorize it, and then you regurgitate it on an exam or a coursework. In our course, we like to assign problems, and then you identify what you need to know, and we help you learn how to apply and solve that problem, because this is much more like the real world. In the real world, you don't go to your job and get told what to do and memorize it and regurgitate it. You have to come up with your own solutions, and that's what we are trying to teach our students. And we have lots of different ways of doing that. We've got, there's a whole list here, which you can look at later. Clinical cases, workshops, small group teaching. We have laboratory practicals. We've got simulations, field trips, all sorts of things. So there's not one right way to learn, and people have different styles. So this is we like to mix it up a bit because not all students respond the same way to different teaching styles. So we just give you a lot of different diverse ways to learn, and you can find your own place in that mix. We have lots and lots of face-to-face. We do have a little bit of online, but you'll get plenty of face-to-face time. And it's about 15 hours a week face-to-face. Now you're taught by a really interesting mix. So professional teaching fellows, so these are people who are skilled at teaching. leading scientists who may not be, professional teachers, but they really know their area. And the same with the clinicians. We have leading clinicians who share their time quite generously. And so you have a mix of professional teaching and people who are really doing actual medicine and research. It's a really nice mix. This is just an example from my lab. We have students come into our labs, of course, to do research projects, and a number of our students get on publications. They contribute to groundbreaking research. Here's some of mine that was published in The Guardian. So it's really exciting. You have a chance to be part of a real research team and to make a big difference and actually co-author a paper that goes on to inform clinical practice. And there's nothing more exciting than that, I don't think. We also try very hard. We know it's a tough postgraduate world out there. There's lots of people with university degrees. We want you to be set apart. So we put a lot of work into the kind of skills that you're going to need, the kind of skills that employers are going to want to see. So leadership, teamwork, problem solving, critical thinking, debating and persuasion, writing, I might add, it's not on this list. We give you lots of practical experience with these soft skills. We have a really excellent careers department at UCL with some bespoke support for our division. And we also have a really nice thing where we support students in making their own online portfolios that they can take with them when they graduate. A lot of employers are looking for these sorts of things, and we help you obtain them. So everybody wants to know what happens to our graduates. So there's two categories. We have straight into employment. Plenty of people just go straight in. Clinical trials management, consultancies, public health. We've got people in finance, people working for the government, people working for number 10 Downing Street, science, communication, and writing, some teaching. And the other, another major chunk are people who want to go on to do further study. Medicine, so MBBS, either at undergraduate or graduate level. PhD, we have a few people going into dentistry, and then a lot of people who want to do an MSc or master's degree to further their career, and then they go on to do PhDs and other things. And the breakdown is about, you can see it here. So master's is the number one destination, followed by medicine and PhD are kind of neck and neck. It depends on the year, but about 50-50. And then there's people going off into doing other things. That's essentially the breakdown. And I think all that's left is to just tell you about the entry requirements. I won't go into this in huge detail, and this is all on the UCL website, but essentially the standard offered is 3 A's. You need to have a biology A grade plus 1 from chemistry, math, or physics. GCSEs, you have to have that grade B or 6. The contextual offer is BBC, math or physics a grade B. The international baccalaureate is, I can't remember, what is it? 38, standard offer, contextual offer 30. And English is level 3. So there you go. That's the requirements. I think that's it. It would be really great if you wanted to join us. You've all got offers. So we'd love to see you come autumn. And it's just a wonderful course. And I'm sure that Chun can talk more about that as well. But that is my talk. So I will stop sharing.
Great, thank you so much, Professor Roan. We'll move on to the questions and answers now. I can see that we've already gotten a few questions, but if you have any more, please type them now and we can start going through them. So we have a question about the difference between applied medical science and biomedical sciences, and if there are any differences in potential career paths.
We get this question every time. It's a good question. So biomedical sciences is an excellent course. And, we're in the same campus, but we have different focus. So we are more focused on medicine. So we teach you about the diseases of the body. We teach you the science underpinning those diseases. We're very focused on clinical applications and the science behind them. Biomedical sciences might be a bit more removed from life sciences or from the medicine itself. So both graduates from either course could go on and do a PhD and do research, no problem. But I think you'd have a distinct advantage if you wanted to go into medicine. So applied medical sciences, I can't say this for sure, but it seems pretty obvious to me that having all that medical background will give you a better leg up into getting into medical school after your degree. And then, any job where you really need to know your stuff clinically, I think you'd have an advantage if you took our course compared with biomedical sciences. So that's basically the difference.
Great. I would definitely actually agree with that, because I went into 4th year this year, which is my integrated master's year, but my cohort, a lot of my classmates graduated last year and they went off into their various career pathways. And a lot of my friends who applied for medicine said that they found the fact that they'd done applied medical sciences and had a really strong scientific and medical background helped them so much in preparing. And having talked to some of them now who are in their first year of postgrad medicine, they're really enjoying it. And honestly, they're saying that a lot of it is stuff that they've already encountered, and it is more of like a recap year, and they're actually having a really good time with, considering how intensive medicine usually is. They said that, the content that they're learning, some of it's already familiar and that it's lovely for them. So the next question is asking how many students are on the course, I assume, for each academic year.
So I think this year we're going to be letting in about 80 people. But remember, in the integrated medical science year, the 80 AM students will be sitting with the other students. And I think the total is, I think it's getting up to about 200 total. But once you go into your second year, you're back down to your cohort of 80. So it's a pretty nice size. It's nice in the first year to meet more people, more different people, and to interact with them. But by the time you start specializing in year 2 and 3, you'll be in a smaller cohort.
Yeah, I really enjoyed first year when there were loads of different people and you met people across all the different sub degrees, and you do like tend to see them afterwards as well, even if you don't end up sharing all the same modules anymore. And by then you'll have made your friends, and regardless if you see them every day or not, it'll be fine. But yeah, so another question is asking if you really like modules such as drugs and metabolism and mechanisms of action, would it be possible to switch to something like pharmacy after first year?
Okay, well, I mean, I can only answer this with my hat on as the admissions tutor for AMS. I know as an admissions tutor, we've actually had people transfer from pharmacy to AMS. Within UCL, you can transfer to other courses. Just, you have to have the right grades. So many courses require that you, for example, that you have to have a 2.1 average to transfer, or some have different requirements. You'll have to have the same underpinning. So the admissions tutor from pharmacy would look at your module choices and say, well, I think there's enough there to allow you to transfer, or there isn't. Yeah, so I mean, we do lots of drugs and metabolism and stuff like that in AMS. So I think it's possible. I can't promise, but it just depends on the course. But yes, transfers do happen and they're quite standard.
Great, thank you. We have a question about grade requirements. The grade requirements used to be AAB, and they're asking if you know the reason for the change to AAA.
Absolutely. So we have so many applicants that are excellent that we were able to increase our offer because we started out in 2014 and we had that AAB because we wanted to attract lots of students. It was a new course. People are always like, it's a new course. But now that we have a good reputation, we're getting so many good applicants that we decided that we would raise to which is pretty much UCL standard, having that higher offer. So it's just a reflection of our success and the fact that a lot of people want to be on the course. So we've been able to raise the bar.
Great. Thank you. Our next question is asking how much practical work is involved in the course.
Sean, you can probably help me out with this. I mean, we have lab practicals all through year 1, and we have lab practicals in year 2. And year 3, you've got your research project, which is like several months of practical work. So I don't know exactly how many hours we get in year 1. I think it hasn't changed much since you went through. It must have been at least 8 lab practicals that were 3 hours long each.
Yeah, I remember most weeks probably at least a 2 or 3 hour session. Unfortunately, because of COVID, my labs were all cancelled in second
That's
year.
right.
But I remember that we were actually offered a catch-up lab session after everything, well, it kind of went back to normal, and yeah, that was like a really long session that was offered to us just so we could sort of look at everything that we missed. And yeah.
Where we've got really good facilities and lots and lots of practicals.
Our next question is asking if within the course is first year the most academically assessed, and at what points during the year are we assessed? So are there any specific dates or exam weeks, I'm assuming? And also if the modules in second year vary from year to year, or do they stay sort of consistently the same?
I mean, optional modules are, I mean, you can take anything you want within UCL. So, but the core modules, they don't change much. We're always trying to increase the variety that we offer. So, we don't tend to get rid of modules. So, if anything, there'll be more modules than there were the year before. It's quite a long, drawn out process to make a new module. It takes a couple of years to get approval and everything, but they don't change much. But they change for the better. We try to offer more things, especially because our student numbers have been inching up. Is year one the most academically assessed? I don't think we can say that year one is more assessed than any other year. I mean, there's coursework and assessments in every year, and points of the year. So it can't be any time during the year. There are quite a few. There isn't a sort of a final exam period, which is coming up, right? John, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
There are
think
there are exams at the end, but there are some exams that happen midway and coursework throughout. Go ahead,
yeah.
John. Sorry.
In first year, we just heard, so traditionally at uni, you have first term and second term to do your modules, and then third term is mostly assessment focused. But also in first year, we had some modules which had an exam, but we ended up doing it at the end of first term, or some which, some modules, they had an exam, but they said that those would be in the summer exam period, which would be term 3. But I'd say sort of like, for each module, you'll have a piece of coursework and potentially an exam, and they're just sort of throughout the year when you do your module. But in a way, I'd say that it's almost better just because you don't end up having like 8 exams at the end of the year, which I remember was very painful back in A levels. So yeah.
I want to stress, though, that these things can change, are subject to change without notice. We're always sort of reassessing how we assess, and it may be this, it could be decided that we might change the way we change the pattern. We can't promise it's going to be how it was before, but that's what Chun is describing is how it has been.
Great, thank you. Our next question is asking about the workload and how intensive it is compared to other medical or biosciences courses.
I don't know. Maybe Chun has the gossip from his colleagues at other universities. I mean, I can't really answer that question. What do you think, Chun?
I'd say that for me in first year, the initial transition from sixth form to university, the first couple of weeks, it took a little bit of adjusting, but the workload was quite manageable. Still had time to see my friends, still had time to go do sports, still had time to leave things more to the last minute than I should have. But I'd say it's manageable, definitely. If you don't do work and you leave everything, it won't be a nice time towards the end, but it's definitely manageable. It's not too bad. Compared to other courses, I can't speak for every courses, but I'd say it's just similar, pretty average to most courses, to be honest. But yeah. Our next question is asking what a typical day for an applied medical science student would be. So I can answer
Over to
this.
you.
Um, Typically in first year, I'd wake up in my halls, have breakfast. I'd have a lecture probably starting around 10 a.m. For maybe 2 hours, either on main campus or at the Royal Free. I'd go, do the lecture, see my friends, get lunch, go home, probably take a nap at this point. Then I'd go to the gym, have dinner, then probably go out with my friends, and then that was honestly most days. And if I had any assignments, I'd probably do them in between. But yeah, and then on Wednesdays, Wednesday afternoons, there are typically no classes because that's reserved for sports mostly. So if you're planning on joining any sports teams, usually those fixtures will be on Wednesday afternoons. So usually classes finish at 12 or 1 at the latest, and you can go off and yeah, participate in your sports clubs. But yeah, that would pretty much be a typical day for me. Our next question is asking about the number of students who got in with a BTEC in applied sciences.
I can't give an exact number. We have had BTEC students. So, I mean, if you've got the grades, and you meet that offer, yeah, you'll be made an offer. So we have had them.
Great.
I don't know the number.
Um, Great. Our next question is asking if there would be any patient interaction in modules.
So no, there's no direct patient interaction. It's not permitted. But yeah, there are a lot of case studies. So clinicians will talk anonymously about their patients and show you scans and x-rays and things, but you won't physically meet them.
Great. And our next question is asking, besides grades and A levels and GCSE, what else is typically considered for admission? For example, any types of
Yeah.
work or volunteer experience?
Well, the personal statement's really important. So you need to write, it'd be really good if you could write it from the heart and write an honest personal statement, not to get anyone to write it for you or to get ChatGPT to write it for you. I mean, we need to see something authentic, and we need your passion and your interest to shine through. It's great to have volunteer experience and things, but really we're just looking for somebody who is enthusiastic and is the kind of person that we think would do well in the course. So someone interested in science, interested in medicine, interested in learning. That's really what we're looking for.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from a student in year 12, and they're asking, what would you say would be the most standout thing to have on your personal statement when applying for AMS? For example, how much would the AMS admissions tutors value and look at work experience? So
Yeah, I've just answered that question. This is not like medical school personal statement. This is really, it's completely different. I mean, mind you, if you're applying to medical school, you might have a medical school personal statement that we would then end up looking at, but that's okay. We're not so fixated on work experience and volunteering and things. Again, we want to see your authentic self, your enthusiasm, your passion, and your interest. That's the main thing.
Great. Yeah, I would say one thing I thought about when I was writing my personal statement was when I was looking at the course, I made sure to write about my personal statement, like why I actually was attracted to the course and, like why I'm choosing it over like a different course, because at the end of the day, like there are reasons why you're choosing this specific course, and, including that would, really help. I think to, just say why you're interested and get that across.
That's an excellent point.
Our next question, I think there's just a couple more, is asking whether there would be any industrial placements.
Okay, so this is a complicated question. We used to have industrial placements. We had to stop them during COVID, and now we were in intense discussion about bringing them back. And I think they may be back in year 2. But I cannot promise. So I don't want you to go away saying, yes, there will be, but we are working very hard to make this happen. It's quite tricky getting the contracts in place and everything. But before the pandemic, we had them. They were very successful, really interesting. People went all over the world. And we very much hope to bring them back for the incoming cohort. But I cannot promise. And I'm not sure where we are with those discussions.
Lovely, thank you. Our next question is asking, does UCL have a lower grade requirements for those doing an EPQ?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to this. So the best thing to do, so that the answers to questions like this are best posed to admissions. So the admissions, we should probably put the email address in the chat. I don't know if Kate or Barry are in the background. I think these kind of technical questions are best answered by them.
Great. And our next question is asking, after AMS, how many students decide to get into graduate entry medicine? I'm not sure if you have the statistics for that.
So I'm keeping track of everybody. I'm not really keeping track of graduate versus non-graduate. There are hardly any graduate entry medicine programs in the UK, as you probably know. We have had people get into them, so that's really great. But we don't keep, we just don't keep track of that division. So I can tell you that it's about 30 of destinations that we know about 25 to 30% are medical school of some description, and that's a mix of graduate and undergraduate.
Great. And our last question is asking, is there still an MSci version still available for AMS?
No, we phased it out because there wasn't, I don't know, how many people are in your cohort?
Probably maybe 20, 30.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure, especially with the sub-degrees, but you're not that many, I think.
What happened was everybody was really excited about doing master's degrees, and we have lots of graduates going on to do masters, but people really wanted a choice. People seemed to prefer to want to go elsewhere to try something totally different. And we did phase it out because of there was just so few students. So no, unfortunately, we don't have that option anymore. But like I said, lots of our students do go on to do masters all over the place in really prestigious Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial. And then after that, go on to do PhDs. We even have some postdocs now. So academically, our students do really well postgraduate and ending up in laboratories and working as professional scientists. So yeah, there's no inbuilt MSci, but there's plenty of opportunity to do masters afterwards.
Great, thank you. Our next question is asking if in the course, is there any focus on the treatment and diagnosis of diseases and processes and stuff like that?
I think it's probably just as much on that as on, so we got science, anatomy, treatment, diagnosis. These are all covered in excruciating detail, right, Sean? Would you agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say it's it's a lot of everything, and I think it's a really good, basis, like a science base to have. And yeah, there's a lot of treatment and diagnosis, a lot of anatomy, a lot of science, a lot of everything. But if you guys have any more questions, please do send them now. But I think for now that might be everything. Maybe we can.
You missed a few. Could
Oh,
somebody
sure.
asked if there's a lot of essays. And is there a lot of essays? I mean, there are essays. Did you?
Uh, yes, there are a lot of essays. I think it's either essays or presentations or exams, sometimes both. Yeah, a lot of essays, but yeah, they're not too bad most of the time.
There's some innovative stuff too. Like so some courses have videos for their final presentation. Some have blogs. So there's group presentations, individual presentations. We have SAQs, short answer questions. We have multiple choice. Yeah, it's a nice mix of assessment styles.
Yeah, great.
And let's just see if there's any
I
others.
think honestly, one of the favorite things that about this course for me is the flipped learning approach. I thought that coming into university, I was worried that a lot of it would just be sitting in a lecture hall, like struggling to keep up with the speed of which the lecture was going, and then going home and having half completed notes and not really understanding what was going on. But I found that the flipped learning approach actually really helped me, because it meant that, let's say on a Sunday night, I'd go through the material that was provided to me, and then instead of a massive lecture, there's also a lot of seminars and stuff. I'd go in and be a smaller group, and it's a lot easier to ask the tutor like any specific questions that you might have. Like it's very tailored to your approach. Like it's much easier, I think. I've sometimes, if it was a big lecture, I would struggle to, always ask the questions that I wanted. But if I already knew what I struggled with, it would give me more time to think about what I wanted to ask. And then overall, it would help my understanding. But yeah.
There's a few more questions I've seen here. Someone's
Yeah.
asking about the fifth option on medical applications. Should we have a personal statement ready aimed at the AMS course? The answer is no, you don't have to do that. So if you apply to medical school, we'll just look at your medical school statement. You don't have to do it. I don't think you even have the option of doing a separate one. Don't worry about that. We don't hold that against you. We know that a lot of people come in that way, and we welcome them. So that's
Great.
fine.
We also have a question about where lectures are mostly done, whether they're at Royal Free or Bloomsbury, and if at the Royal Free, would they have exposure to doctors, so they could mention it in their personal statement should they want to apply for graduate med school or something like that.
Loads of teaching all over both campuses. I mean, at this point, we have so many students now that they don't all fit, like the lab space. We can't all fit them in the Royal Free. So in the first year, you do quite a bit at the Royal Free, but also all over Bloomsbury. By years 2 and 3, you're everywhere. And yes, but there's doctors. There's lots of doctors teaching on our courses in year 1 and other years. So you will get to know quite a few doctors. I think you probably could mention that on your medical school personal statement. Yeah, they're really nice people. They give up their time. They have all sorts of amazing insights. And yeah, you will be exposed to doctors.
Great, thank you. We have a question about what sort of person would thrive and enjoy the course. Um,
Well, you got to love science and really be keen and interested and curious and willing to work hard. And um, yeah, that's a tough question, isn't it? I mean, what do you think, Sean? What are you and your colleagues like
um,
when you're enjoying the course? What do you like?
I'd say mostly like just open-minded, really. I think you'll enjoy the course a lot more if you're open to, you'll be exposed to a lot of different information and a lot of different angles and through various modules. And I think if you're open to, learning about each one and seeing, even if you have an idea of what you might want to do, then I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. I know for me, at the start, I was worried that some of the compulsory modules I wouldn't enjoy as much, but I just tried to go into them with an open mind, and I ended up enjoying them just as much as the ones that I thought I would.
That's
But yeah,
great.
um, our next question is asking what percentage of admissions would we do you typically accept on the course?
I- It changes every year, and I don't know what it is, what it's going to be in the coming year. I mean, it depends on how many applicants we get and what their marks are. And yeah, I don't think I can answer that question.
That's fine. And our next question is asking, is there a lot of chemistry and biochemistry in the course?
A lot. Well, we do have a bit of chemistry and a little bit of biochemistry, definitely. Um, yeah, you will be exposed to that, but it won't be like you're taking a chemistry or biochemistry undergraduate degree. You'll get the appropriate support and knowledge that you need to understand the modules. But yeah, obviously you can't talk about medicine or biology without talking about those two subjects.
And our last question for now is asks whether or not AMS is a competitive course.
What do you think you mean by that? Competitive. Do you mean like the students are competing against each other? Or competitive compared with other courses? And I'm not actually sure. I don't know if
Yeah,
the person could clarify the question. Do you mean students fighting with each other or us
yeah,
being as
it's
good
a
as
tough
other? It's a bit
question to
vague.
answer.
I could answer both questions. I don't think the students are, I mean, I think the students are really get along really well. I don't know about you, Chun, but I get the impression that people just get along and it's quite friendly and supportive. As far as are we competitive with other, I mean, we're getting world-class graduates who are going on to do amazing jobs. So I think we are competitive, if that's what you mean.
I
It's
think they
UCL.
clarified
Oh,
about
oh,
how competitive
oh,
it is
getting into the
to get
course.
into the course.
Again, that comes down to like how many do we accept and reject? I don't know the exact answer to that. I mean, it's competitive. I mean, you need to have those marks and a good personal statement. But I mean, I don't want to quantify it or put a number on it.
Great. I think for now that's all the questions. I'm just looking back to see if there's any that we've missed.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that you guys still want to ask, like feel free. I think we still have a bit of time. Um,
I
but
think.
yeah, just so you guys have a bit more context, I'm
Oh,
just finishing up uni now in fourth year. So this year was actually my last year. I'm just finishing my integrated
hmm.
masters. But after graduating next year, I'm gonna look to develop my own startup as well as working part-time for a startup just to get more experience about like how one should be run successfully and just see the environment and see if it's something I'd want to pursue long term. But over the course of the past few years, I think it's been a really good environment to learn the skills that are necessary to launch startup, and hopefully I'll be able to, pursue that and yeah, and see where it goes. I'm excited for it, but also a bit sad to leave uni. It has gone very quickly. COVID definitely didn't help. I went from a first year to a third year, I think. Just it felt so sudden, but yeah, I think we have another few questions which we can go through. Um, are there any cadaver dissections? No.
no dead bodies. We do have a lot of cutting edge simulations, but we do not dissect human bodies.
And our next question is asking if there will be maths or statistics involved in the course, this is yes. It's not, there are modules that you can choose to take as well, which will be more statistics intensive, but I think there's also a few compulsory modules which involve statistics. But yeah.
Yeah, there's compulsory, what's it called? In the year one, DIES. What does DIES stand for?
Uh,
Um, Data interpretation and
yes.
data
I can't remember, but I
stats.
remember
There's a
these
stats
modules.
module in year one, which
Yeah,
which gives you a really nice foundation for everything that comes after.
yeah. And our last question is whether or
Taster
not there
sessions.
will be any taste.
Yeah. So we're having a taster session, a very short one, I'm afraid, on the 5th of May at UCL. So from 3 to 4 on the main campus of UCL, we'll be holding a taster session for AMS, which is only 1 hour long, so it's not much of a taster. We'll give you a flavor of the teaching and how we do it. We may put on another sort of more intensive taster session later on in the year at the World Free, where you'll do some lab practicals and things. I haven't planned that yet, but we do tend to do stuff like that too. So, but for sure, keep your eye on the 5th of May.
Great, sounds very exciting. We have another question about if there would be any physics involved.
Not really. Not really. I mean,
Yeah, I
no.
think
I think,
physics less so.
nah. I
Definitely,
mean,
definitely maths and statistics, but physics a
maybe the
little less
basic
so.
stuff like, oh, I mean, there's some stuff like blood flow where you kind of have to understand turbulence and
Yeah,
volume, the relationship between volume and force, but it's just really, really low level stuff.
yeah. Off
And
the
it's
top
all
of my
taught to you. You
head,
don't need to have any serious.
yeah,
Anything.
just maybe a bit of stuff about blood pressure and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but not too much. Oh, I think we also have a in-person open day on the 30th of June and the 1st of July, which you guys are welcome to join.
Yeah,
Uh,
but that won't be not necessarily. I don't know how tastery that will be. It might be a taster. We haven't really planned that yet. So yeah.
Great. Do you guys have any more questions? We still have a couple of minutes, so yeah, just fire away if you guys have anything left and we can get through them.
Do you want to talk about the societies, Chan? Because that's always a really nice draw, and
Yeah,
then maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
sure. So there are infinite amounts of societies at UCL. Honestly, whatever you think of, there's probably a society. And if not, you can always make one. But personally, I play table tennis and basketball. So I joined those societies in first year. They've been really great. I just play basketball socially. So I'd go to a session like maybe once or twice a week. And then I play competitively in table tennis. So most of the time I'd have
Wow.
games on Wednesdays afternoons. And yeah, it's great. It's a really nice way of meeting more people. And besides that, there's also societies more related to the degree. So I know that you can join, there's like surgical societies and stuff like that if you want to pursue like your interest in that. And then is there still an AMS ball?
I I'm not sure. I know they were talking about it. I think there is sort of an AM society, or there has been in the
Yeah,
past.
there's an AM society, then they host events and a lot of interesting things that you can get involved with. And then in second year, if you want to, you can also run for society positions and participate in sort of the more, I don't know, planning more things within the AMS society.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the accommodation and where you lived year one, two, and three, and how that
Yes.
works?
Yeah. So for anyone that isn't from London already, maybe if you're coming from a different part of England or a different country, London can be quite daunting. I'm from Sheffield, which is like the Midlands, and I'd only been to London a couple times before, so it was quite intimidating when I first came. But I love London now. It's honestly like my favorite place in the world. But in first year, I stayed in Astor College, which was on Bloomsbury campus, and it was great. And then typically in first year, most people get assigned halls if you want to through UCL. I think if UCL's your first choice, you're guaranteed accommodation spot, but I'm not sure, so don't take that for sure. But then in second and third year, I moved out of halls and just found a flat with a couple of my friends. So currently I live with three of my friends. One's graduated, two of them have graduated, and another is a 6th year medic. But yeah, I think we have one more question about lecture attendance. Is lecture attendance compulsory, and can you watch them online if you're not there in person?
I mean, you can if you're sick. If you've got to, you've got to excuse you're ill. You can. Most of them are recorded. Maybe not live, but you can watch them after the fact. Yeah, we try to record all lectures, but attendance is mandatory, and you need to have an excuse if you're not there, because it's really not good for your learning to be on a screen all the time. We really, especially after the pandemic, we really feel very strongly that face-to-face interactions and questions and being with human beings is a really good way to learn. And we do insist that people come to lectures. But it's good to know there's a safety net. If you are ill, you can always, or even if you just want to revise again or to check your notes, we will make every effort to record all the sessions.
Great, thank you very much. Um, just seeing if there's any more questions.
Is there anything else we haven't covered? I would say just in our chat. Is there sort of any other areas about university or AMS that I think we've been pretty thorough. We've done a nice job of.
Yeah, I'd say maybe something that might be of interest is maybe the research project in third year. I think you'd probably be a lot better at explaining, like they can do either a literature review or systematic review, and like sort of a breakdown of third year, because it's quite different from first and second year, I think.
Yeah, so you can either work on there's a number of different research projects. There's a traditional lab project where you're working in a lab with stuff like test tubes. There are computational projects where you're doing scientific research, but it's more bioinformatics or computer-based. And then there's as Chun mentioned, you can do a library project, which is a literature review. And all of these things, you got a number of months to work on them. It ends up with a final dissertation and a viva, sort of a presentation. And a number of our students end up getting publications out of these projects. So you're co-author on either conference abstracts or actual papers, which is great. And it's a really amazing opportunity to do real research and in a real research team.
Great. I think we just have one last question or two. They're asking about what career support is available.
Yeah, so UCL Careers is an absolutely outstanding department that's completely and solely focused on supporting students. There's stuff like helping you with your CV, mock interviews, one-on-one appointments to talk about your career goals. We have somebody who's dedicated to the Faculty of Medical Sciences who comes in and gives sort of bespoke careers advice. We have careers fairs where employers from all over the country come and put up stalls and you can go and look around what's available. It's really outstanding. And I would say there's so much support available that sometimes it's overwhelming to find it all, because it's just anything you possibly want to do, you can usually find some help there. Yeah, I think it's really excellent.
Thank you so much. And we'll just finish with this last question about, can you talk about living costs in London, please? How do you manage money with accommodation and food? It's a difficult question. I think for everyone it's different, and London can be expensive. I think it's important just to be smart with your money, and I think in London, because rent is generally more expensive, if you get a student loan, they give you a high student loan for London. But on top of that, at UCL, there's a lot of, like if you want to, you can always get a part-time job. There's a lot of opportunities on UCL's websites, and there's a lot of stuff that you can hang out with. And yeah, there's a lot of student support as well if you have any worries about that while you're here. But honestly, yeah, I think that's everything.
There's one more question. There's one more question.
Oh, I see, just now.
Gap years,
yeah.
gap years, deferral entry. I think you need to contact admissions They will be able to give you an answer to that question. I'm not exactly sure. No. I think we probably do, but I don't want to say for sure. And interviewing, uh, I mean, as an admissions tutor, I sometimes deal with the transfers and things, and occasionally I'll have an informal chat with somebody if I want to just make sure that the fit's right, but it's not an interview. But no, but please do ask admissions this question because I'm not 100% sure.
Great, thanks. Oh, I
Uh,
just have a note here that the 5th of May is actually an offer holder event. So any prospective students, so for any prospective students, there will actually be taster sessions in the autumn term. But if you receive an offer next year, they will be invited to an offer.
okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I was getting confused with what was what. Yeah, sorry. So 5th of May is for offer holders, which is not you guys. Sorry, I got confused. But there will be opportunities if you get an offer, plenty of opportunities later. Sorry,
Great.
Kate.
No worries. Well, I think that's everything. Oh, one more. Is study abroad an option? Will you take that as our very, very last question?
Um, Study abroad. Only in as much as if we have the industrial placements in place by the time you'd be here and your placement was abroad, you could study abroad. But generally, it's not really a thing we do.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for all your questions. I think we've managed to answer a lot, but if you have any further questions, I'm sure you guys can get in contact and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Once again, thank you to everyone for attending, and thank you to Professor Rowan for your presentation. And yeah, hopefully everyone has a lovely evening.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.